Every morning, the cycle begins again. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. Day after day, the same endless loop. The routine never breaks. But why? What's the point of it all? Maybe you felt it before, that strange, hollow moment, when everything feels meaningless. When the things that once mattered begin to feel empty. When life itself starts to feel like a machine running without purpose, without reason. Albert Camus felt this too, but instead of sinking into despair, he found an answer that could change how you see life forever. For thousands of years, humanity held onto an anchor, a grand story that gave everything meaning. Every birth, every struggle, every heartbreak was part of a divine plan. Life was hard, but it had direction. Suffering wasn't pointless. It was a test, a lesson, a step towards something greater. Death wasn't the end. It was a doorway to another existence, a reunion with something higher. People found comfort in this belief. They looked at the vast universe and saw purpose. They looked at pain and saw meaning. It was certainty, something that made life bearable. But then everything changed. The march of science reshaped the world. Charles Darwin proposed that life wasn't crafted by divine hands, but shaped by slow, indifferent evolution. The Big Bang Theory told us the universe wasn't made for us. It was just physics, unfolding according to cold mathematical laws, not moral ones. Disease, natural disasters, suffering, these weren't punishments or tests. They were random, chaotic, meaningless. As scientific explanations grew stronger, the old stories began to fade. Religion lost its hold, and with it, humanity lost something profound: certainty. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this coming. He famously declared, "God is dead." But this wasn't a victory cry. It was a warning. He didn't mean a divine being had literally died. He meant people had stopped believing. Faith, which once shaped society, morality, and purpose, was crumbling. And when faith dies, certainty dies with it. For centuries, people relied on religion to answer the big questions: why are we here? What is our purpose? What happens after death? Now, those answers were gone, and in their place, only silence remained. A cold, indifferent universe, stretched out endlessly, offering nothing, no purpose, no grand design, no final destination. This wasn't just an intellectual crisis. It was deeply personal, because when meaning is stripped away, so is stability. People were left staring into the void, trying to make sense of their existence. If there's no higher purpose, then why get up in the morning? Why go to work? Why chase dreams, fall in love, build families, or strive for anything? If in the end it all dissolves into nothing, then what's the point? This is the modern human condition, caught between ancient stories and a silent universe. But here's the twist. Camus didn't surrender to the void. He said, if life has no inherent meaning, then it's up to us to create it. To find meaning not in the stars or gods, but in the moments, the choices, the experiences we live every day. To embrace the absurd, the clash between our search for meaning and the universe's silence, and still, to rebel against it with passion and purpose, because maybe the real meaning isn't given to us. Maybe it's made by us. In the work we do, in the love we give, in the dreams we dare to chase, despite knowing they might never be fully fulfilled. This is the freedom and the burden of a world without guaranteed meaning. To live deliberately, to choose courage over comfort, to find purpose in the very act of creating purpose. That's the challenge. That's the gift. Because in this endless cycle of waking, working, eating, sleeping, we have the chance to break the loop, not with grand cosmic plans, but with the small acts that give our lives meaning here and now. Nothing. For many, that realization was terrifying. Some fell into despair, others clung desperately to illusions. Some numbed themselves with distractions, chasing money, status, pleasure, anything to avoid facing the terrifying truth. Maybe life is utterly meaningless. And that's where Albert Camus steps in. He stood at the edge of this existential crisis and refused to look away. He asked the same terrifying questions. He stared straight into the abyss. But instead of surrendering to despair, he found something unexpected: a way forward. A way not just to exist in a meaningless world, but to find joy in it. Humans have an unshakable need for meaning. It's hardwired into us. From the moment we're old enough to ask questions, we demand answers. Why are we here? What's our purpose? Is there something greater beyond all this? We look up at the vastness of the universe, the stars stretching endlessly into infinity, and we expect an answer. We want the universe to tell us we matter, that we belong, that our struggles, our joys, our love, none of it is in vain. But the universe stays silent. No voice echoes from the void. No divine script appears in the sky. No cosmic force reassures us that everything will be okay. Camus called this silence the absurd, the clash between our desperate need for meaning and a universe that refuses to provide one. It's like screaming into an empty canyon, waiting for an answer that will never come, and that silence, it's unbearable. So most people try to escape it. There are three common ways people react to the absurd denial clinging to artificial meaning. Some refuse to accept that life has no inherent meaning. Instead, they latch on to ready-made answers, religion, political ideologies, cultural narratives. They create comforting stories, believing some higher power or system has a grand plan. While this can provide stability, it often demands blind faith, ignoring the reality that the universe isn't obligated to give us meaning. Then there's nihilism, falling into despair. If life has no meaning, some argue, then nothing matters. Love, beauty, morality. It's all an illusion. This belief can lead to depression, cynicism, even self-destruction. If nothing matters, then why bother doing anything at all? And finally, there's escape, numbing ourselves with distractions. The most common response: people drown out the existential void with work, money, entertainment, pleasure. They chase career success, social status, endless entertainment, or fleeting pleasures, anything to avoid confronting the terrifying reality that deep down, they don't know why they're doing any of it. Look around. How many people do you see endlessly scrolling on their phones, partying without joy, chasing wealth but never feeling satisfied? They're not truly living. They're running from the void, from the silence, from the fear that maybe, just maybe, life has no grand meaning at all. But Camus offers another path.
He said, yes, the universe is silent. Yes, life can seem meaningless, but that doesn't mean we have to give up.
Instead, we must embrace the absurd, accept the clash between our need for meaning and the universe's indifference, and then choose to live anyway. To find meaning in the very act of living, in the relationships we build, in the passions we pursue, in the small moments that give life color and depth, because the absurd doesn't destroy meaning, it frees us to create it ourselves. This is the rebellion Camus spoke of, to live fully, freely, joyfully, not despite the absurd, but because of it. And in that choice, we discover something profound. That meaning isn't given to us, it's made by us, every single day. That's the real gift, not an answer from the stars, but the courage to make your own. Maybe life doesn't come with a built-in purpose. But Camus refused to run. He faced the absurd head-on, looked it straight in the eye, and did something unexpected. He embraced it. In that acceptance, he found a fourth path, one that could lead not just to survival, but to real happiness. Camus found his answer in an ancient Greek myth, the story of Sisyphus. Sisyphus wasn't just any man. He was a king, clever and rebellious, someone who refused to bow to fate. He tricked the gods, escaped the underworld, and even tried to outsmart death itself. But his cunning angered the gods. Their punishment was designed to break his spirit forever. Eternity spent pushing a massive boulder up a steep mountain. Each day as he neared the summit, the boulder would slip and crash back down, erasing all his effort, again and again, endlessly. No rest, no reward, no escape. This was the ultimate curse. The gods understood that physical pain could be endured, but hopelessness destroys a man. And what could be more hopeless than a task that never ends, never changes, and never means anything? Most see Sisyphus' story and recoil. It's the perfect metaphor for life's futility. We wake up, we work, we chase dreams, we struggle, we lose, we try again, and in the end, death. No matter how much we achieve, no matter how high we climb, everything resets. Generations before us built, fought, dreamed only for their legacies to fade. Monuments crumble. Names vanish. Civilizations rise and fall. If life is just an endless cycle of struggle leading to nothing, what's the point? That's why so many see Sisyphus as tragic. His suffering mirrors ours, his punishment our daily grind. His endless task reflects our unanswered questions, our search for meaning in a universe that offers none. But Camus saw something else, something that flipped the story completely. What if Sisyphus is not suffering? What if Sisyphus is actually free? Sounds absurd, right? How could anyone be free trapped in that endless torment? Here's what Camus realized. The moment Sisyphus accepts his fate, when he stops fighting, stops wishing for things to be different, he gains power beyond the gods' reach. The gods wanted to break him, to crush him with hopelessness. But what if he simply refuses to suffer? Imagine Sisyphus at the mountain's base, watching his boulder tumble back down. Instead of cursing the gods, instead of despairing, he smiles. Because in that moment of acceptance, he claims his freedom. He owns his struggle. He owns his fate, and in doing so he turns punishment into rebellion. The endless climb becomes his own. His life's meaning no longer depends on reaching the top. It's found in the climb itself. Camus said, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy." Why? Because true freedom comes not from escaping struggle, but from embracing it. From finding joy in the very act of pushing the boulder, knowing it will fall, yet choosing to rise again. That's the lesson for us. Life might not offer us a grand purpose, a cosmic plan, or a final destination. It might just be a mountain to climb, a boulder to push. But what matters is how we face it. Will we resist and suffer? Or will we accept and find freedom? Will we despair over the meaningless, or will we create meaning in the struggle itself? This is the rebellion Camus invites us to join, to refuse despair, to refuse surrender, to choose joy in the journey, no matter how hard it is, because freedom isn't given. It's claimed, and maybe, just maybe, that's enough. He doesn't collapse into despair, he just shrugs, takes a deep breath, and begins pushing again. No complaints, no self-pity, no demand for a grand reason. What if, as he walks back down the mountain to retrieve his boulder, he smiles? Camus wrote, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy." That single line changes everything. It means we are not crushed by meaninglessness, unless we choose to be. It means life's lack of inherent purpose is not a curse, it's an opportunity. Camus believed we are all Sisyphus. Every morning, we wake up. We go to work. We chase ambitions. We fall. We get up. We build relationships, create things, try to carve out a place in the world. And yes, ultimately, it all resets. Generations from now, nothing we do may be remembered. But does that mean what we do is worthless? Only if we choose to see it that way. Here's the key. Once we accept that life has no grand cosmic meaning, we become free to create our own. Think about it. If life had some ultimate predetermined meaning, we'd be trapped by it. We wouldn't be free, we'd just be following a script. But because there is no fixed meaning, we get to decide what matters to us. Instead of waiting for the universe to hand us a purpose, we realize we don't need one. We stop searching for some ultimate justification for our existence. We start living for the experience itself. The beauty of the absurd. This is what embracing the absurd truly means. It's not about pretending life has some deep cosmic purpose. It's not about falling into despair and saying, nothing matters, so why try? It's about revolting against the absurd by choosing to live anyway. Not because we expect some grand reward. Not because we believe in an afterlife, fate, or divine script, but simply because we can. Because joy is possible, even in a meaningless universe. Because we can choose to love, to create, to laugh, to explore, not for some higher reason, but just because it's worth it in the moment. Finding freedom in the absurd. Instead of seeing life as a curse, we see it as a playground, a space where we are free to explore, to build, to fail, and to experience everything fully, without needing external justification. That's why Sisyphus is happy. He knows his task will never end. He knows the boulder will always roll back down, but he pushes anyway, not because it will lead somewhere, but because he chooses to. And when we stop asking, what's the point? And start saying, Why not? That's when we become truly free. That's when life becomes lighter, brighter, more exciting. Because instead of searching for meaning that doesn't exist, we start creating meaning for ourselves. And in that moment, we win the game of the absurd crag. Camus didn't just stop at philosophy. He believed absurdism was not just a way to think, it was a way to live. Life isn't something to just sit around and ponder endlessly. It's not about endlessly dwelling on the meaningless void, it's about grabbing that emptiness and turning it into energy, fuel to move forward. But how do we actually do that? Here are 3 real practical ways to live an absurdist life. Most of us get stuck in our own heads, trapped by what ifs. What if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if I make the wrong choice? We hesitate, analyze, wait for the perfect moment. But here's a hard truth. The universe doesn't care. You can spend hours, days, even years worrying about every possible outcome. But in the grand scheme of things, none of it matters as much as you think. Lost your job. So what? The world keeps turning. Another opportunity will come. Failed at something. Who cares? The universe isn't keeping score. Made a mistake.
Welcome to being human. Now, move on.
Camus teaches us, life is absurd, unpredictable, chaotic. Instead of draining your energy overthinking every little thing, just take action. Because in the end, whether you win or lose, the boulder will roll back down anyway. So why stress? When you stop searching for meaning, you begin to truly experience life. Most people see meaninglessness as a dark pit of despair. But Camus saw something else, an open door. Since life has no inherent meaning, you're completely free to enjoy it however you want. Think about it. When you laugh, even knowing life is meaningless, you're rebelling against the absurd. When you love, even knowing everything fades, you're rebelling against the absurd. When you create, even knowing nothing lasts forever, you're rebelling against the absurd. Every act of joy is an act of defiance. Instead of sitting paralyzed by confusion or fear, rebel by embracing life anyway. Laugh loud, love hard, explore wildly. No grand reason required. Most of us freeze before big decisions. Should I start that business? Should I take that risk? Should I travel, learn something new, or follow my passion? And our brains flood us with reasons not to. It's risky. It might fail. It's not practical. What if you mess up? Camus would flip the script and say, instead of asking why, ask why not. Why not start that project? Why not take that leap? Why not live boldly? Because at the end of the day, the boulder is rolling back down no matter what. So why not enjoy the climb? Camus's absurdism isn't about surrendering to meaninglessness. It's about fighting back by choosing to live, to act, to feel, to experience everything fully, without waiting for some cosmic purpose to show up. Once you see life through this lens, everything changes. You stop waiting. You stop hesitating. You stop sweating the small stuff. You start living. From the moment we're born, society, religion, culture, they all try to give us answers. They say life has a purpose, a grand design, a reason for being. But what if that purpose isn't handed to us? What if it's up to us to create it? In a world without fixed meaning, the power is in your hands. You're free to choose joy. You're free to choose love. You're free to choose your path, even if it's messy, uncertain, or unknown. That's the true gift of the absurd. Not despair, but freedom. So stop asking what life means, and start asking what you want it to mean. Push your boulder, smile as it rolls back down, and find your own happiness in the climb. We're often told there's a right path, a formula for what gives life meaning. Follow this, do that, and suddenly your life will have purpose. So we spend years chasing success, diving into relationships, clinging to beliefs, ideologies, achievements, hoping one of them will fill the void. But what if the real truth is simpler and darker than that? What if there is no meaning? Not written in the stars, not hidden in ancient scrolls, not waiting for us to uncover it. At first, this sounds terrifying. A world without meaning feels empty, cold, overwhelming. But Albert Camus saw it differently. If life has no inherent meaning, then you're completely free. Free from society's expectations. Free from the pressure to justify your existence. Free from the crushing burden of needing a cosmic reason to keep going. And in that freedom, something incredible happens. You gain the power to create your own meaning, not because the universe hands it to you, not because some divine force demands it, but because you decide it, you choose what matters. Camus' message is both simple and revolutionary. Live fully, laugh loudly, love deeply, create boldly, explore fearlessly, experience everything. Not because life has a grand purpose, but simply because you are alive. And that alone is enough. Remember Camus' image of Sisyphus, endlessly pushing that boulder up the hill. He said, one must imagine Sisyphus happy, because Sisyphus owns his struggle. He chooses to embrace it, even when it seems pointless. His defiance makes him free. So what do you think? Do you agree with Camus' image here? Do you agree with Camus' image here? Can we find freedom in the absence of answers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If this video made you think, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. See you in the next one.